Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Town of Dewey Beach monthly Town Council meeting. It's being held at the Dewey Beach Life Saving Station as well as via Zoom. This is Friday, November 21st, 2025, and it is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. With that, I'd like to open the meeting, convene the meeting with the start of the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag,
Yeah.
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Next item on the agenda is roll call. Commissioner Bauer.
Present.
Commissioner Persinger.
Here.
Commissioner Gibbings.
Present.
Commissioner Jazinski.
President Remotely.
And Mayor Stevens is here, so we have a quorum. First, next item, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item is I'll ask for any public comment, either first here physically and then on Zoom, for any non-agenda items. Non-agenda items. Come on up, sir. State your name. The floor is yours for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ed Klima, 106 Swede Street. I'll talk about some specific agenda items later, but first off, I want to, thank everybody here. I think this town is much more stable and a better place than it's ever been. And that's a tribute to the council, to the city manager, police chief, and everything. But in the last few weeks, I probably had some angst in this town that I haven't felt in a long time. When a reporter shows up at my door, and that's how I find out things are going on in the town, and I like to think I have an idea of what's going on, it really makes me question and think about where we were 10 years ago. I certainly don't think that's the intention of anybody here, but certainly that's the perception of me and some of my neighbors. When most of us live in Dewey Beach for a reason, the way of life, we chose to live here because we didn't want to live in Rehoboth with a bunch of extra regulations. We don't live in in a 55 and older community with a bunch of restrictions. And I know that one topic isn't on the agenda tonight, but I just think globally, I think just know that the perception is certainly that there are feelings that some of us are feeling that we haven't felt in a long time in this town. Thank you.
Kate, is anyone online for general public comment?
No one is raising their hand.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to the heart of the agenda. Item A, review the October 25. Oh, I'm sorry. Went right through Ed threw me off. Committee reports. Commissioner Bauer.
Well, marketing's off and running again. So looks like we have some fundraising to do. Kate, do you have that chart that on the agenda? Or listed with the agenda items? Looks like we've raised $251,000 on a goal of $500,000, right? Or what is that?
345 out of the 500.
Yeah, so we're well on our way on the donor wall. And the buy a brick, looks like we've got 100 donors so far. How many bricks in total can we put in there?
2,047.
Okay, so 2,000. So we have 1,853 left. So I think we want to get the word. I think it'd be great Christmas gifts for everybody.
And looking forward to the marketing committee
Yeah.
helping them.
So we'll get that word out. So that's what's going on with marketing, and I'll let Commissioner Gibbings talk about the finance.
Commissioner Persinger.
Oh, that's good. The Resiliency and Sustainability Committee met a couple of weeks ago, and I just want to mention that you're just talking about the marketing committee. Chair of the marketing committee was present, at least on Zoom for that meeting, and really appreciate her participating in that, and I think that will be a good coordination between those two groups. And then secondly, the Charter and Code Committee is working on two issues. One is possible changes to building permit requirements, and two, was just mentioned a few moments ago, possible property maintenance standards here in town. It is only the first item that we're going to be talking about today, and that is the possible changes to building permits. It's likely that we'll come back to the property maintenance standards in December. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thanks. Commissioner Gibbons?
Finance Committee met on November 3rd, and the Brown Advisory Report was posted that time for people to review our investments. We did a lot of preparation for the budget workshop, which again is going to be December 8th here. And item H is an outcome of our discussion from that meeting.
Very good. Commissioner Jazinski?
No committee reports to talk about.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next element. Town manager updates.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Milling has been completed in the town as part of the state highway department contract. Milling is completed. They are going to provide us 5 truckloads of millings that have actually gone through a screening process. We will use some of that millings to fill in some holes around town. The paving is continuing. Because of the rain, it was stopped for about a day. They can't pave when the actual milled areas are wet. These are some of the paved areas that have already been done up in the north end. You can see, they've done a great job up there. They stopped right now on Collins Street. They've worked their way on the bay side all the way down to Collins Street. And then starting next week, they'll work their way up the ocean side from Collins all the way up to like St. Louis. You can see the streets that are marked with the X are the streets that have already been paved. Today they did do in front of Rodney. They did do Bueno and Dover and Reed. So they'll be doing the rest of those paving into next week. I would just apologize for the inconvenience for the paving that's going to be done up around like New Orleans Street and Salisbury Street, given that Thanksgiving's coming up, but we really don't have a choice with that. It's a state contract and they're proceeding with it. Next, just real quick, if Kate, you could bring next slide up. We were able to obtain some from Stone, and I'd like to thank the Marina View Homeowners Association down on Collins Street. They were going to get rid of this stone. We said, no, we'll take it off your hands. We're also going to use this, it's saving us money. We're going to use this stone for parking areas, to fill in holes and some other things around town. So again, I'd like to thank Marina View Condo Association for that. Next is the new town hall. It is really moving along. As you can see, they're putting in the HVAC, they're doing electrical, they're doing plumbing, they're putting the walls up. It's moving along, and it's an exciting time. You can see the cement block there. That's for the interview rooms, the hard interview rooms, the processing room, the cells, and also to provide in the lobby area that bulletproof resistance that was required. You can see there that how they're working on that. It's really moving along. They've had about 40 folks for the last couple days in there, all the different trades working. We hope to have the trestles up on the roof sometimes next week. And when I talked to Dave Naples, who's our consultant from CSI, who's representing and looking after the town's best interests on this, and we talked to Dave Costello, who's actually the builder, we are still on budget and we are still moving within our schedule. I plan on sometime after the first of the year to actually have Dave Naples actually come in and give an update on the actual budget for the building. And that's the 3rd floor. That's actually the roof. You can see how much space is up there. I'm so glad that we decided to go with the 3rd floor. This picture was taken yesterday. Since yesterday, they've actually got the walls up around the outside of the 3rd floor roof. That's going to be a lot of storage up there for a lot of things at the police department, court, the Alderman court, for parking, and for our building official. There's going to be a lot of room for storage up there on that 3rd floor. So we are moving, and we're moving in the right direction on that. Thank you, Kate. If we could on this, if we could zoom in just a little bit, Kate, on the top one. So on the top one, you can see there the blue lines that are at the bottom of the screen. That's where that approximately 90-foot brick sidewalk's going to go, that we're selling the bricks for. That's on the south side of the building between the condos and the south side of the new town hall. If you look where I have it circled up a little further in the top right-hand corner, that's the admin lobby. That's where we're talking about the donor wall possibly going. If we could go to the other slide now, Kate. So this is a closer look at that town admin lobby. You can see on the right side, It's about a 17.5, 17 feet 5 inches wall there. We're gonna probably come in, depending maybe to 14 feet and put that donor wall up there. And then across on the other side where you see where the blue is, that's a 12-foot wall. We'll be able to do other things there. Now, when it comes to thank you, Kate. When it comes to the donor wall, we're looking at, designing something that kind of gives the feel of Dewey Beach, kind of what Ed was talking about. Dewey Beach, a way of life, the vibe of the town, the lifestyle of the town, what's made Dewey Beach so unique in the United States. And that's not exactly what it's going to look like, but it's going to look something like that. And the mayor's been working very hard on this. Kate's been working very hard on this. And what it'll enable us to do, if we go with something like that design, we can change it out. You can come up with different boards to put in there. You can change it out. You can change the pictures out. You can change the information out if you'd like to do that. And we're also going to have a screen in the middle that'll provide some audio or video if we'd like to do that, that also can change. As I said, the mayor and Kate have been running point on this, and so far everything's going very well. And then there's the raising of the bricks. If you want to have help Dewey's future with the town hall, I strongly suggest that you buy a brick. They'll be there for a very long time. And then we also have the donor wall.
This building will be here for a very long time.
Yeah, the building is unbelievably, when at some point when it's a little safer on the inside, I'd like to take some of the commissioners through, let you see it. I mean, it's steel and it's concrete, and it's steel and it's concrete, and it's going to be there, as the mayor just said, sometime. Donations so far for the donor wall. There's several here. I'm going to talk to the mayor, and then we'll let the mayor at some point release the names of those folks that have donated so far for the donor wall. One of the other things we're currently working on is just reviewing some of our dry flood proofing at 1601 Coastal Highway. That's the site of the old Grotto building. It's a commercial site, mixed residential. We're looking at the dry flood proofing that is taking place on that bottom floor. We have found as we go through this that we may have to add maybe something with some inspections. So when we have another commercial dry flood proof in a 100-year flood zone like that, that the town actually has somebody like an outside consultant like Dave Naples to go in and make sure drywall, insulation, any type of wood or any other type of things that are being done in there that are per the I think it's an International Building Code, the ASCI Building Code, and the most recent codes that the town adheres to. So I just think that's something that we need to look at sometime in the future. Currently, Dave Naples, who's our consultant, is writing a review up of some of the activities that are going on there, and that review is being, that draft is being reviewed by myself and the town attorney to come out with our findings from that. There'll be more on that later. Talked about the brick marina view. History of Dewey Beach was on November 1st. We had a great turnout. The Civic League did a nice job putting that on. We had about 90 people there. Very interesting to hear about things that had happened in the past. Had a great turnout. Let me just remind everybody, golf carts are not allowed on Route 1. You can cross Route 1 on a golf cart, but you cannot ride up and down. You cannot go north-south on a golf cart. If you are seen doing that, the police are going to issue you a ticket for golf. And that's a state rule. It's not a town rule. That's a state rule, so that's nothing that the town really is going out of the way to try to enforce, but we will enforce it because it is a state law. Performance evaluations were done. This is the 4th year in a row we've had performance evaluations done. They're all turned in. The police got theirs in to me. I've done them all in the admin. Performance evaluations look really well this year, and will be they've been completed. And I'd like to thank everybody on the team for getting those into me on time. A couple announcements real quick. The Pfeiffer's Holiday Christmas Tree will be on the 29th. The Lighthouse Holiday Christmas Tree will be on the 6th. And the menorah lighting will be on the 14th at 5:30. Pending any questions, that's all I have.
The report that Dave Naples is working on 1601 Highway 1, is that, you're intending to make that report public? Or?
We will, once we get done reviewing it.
Okay.
As I said, we're reviewing it with the town attorney right now. Jim Dede's eye, Dawn, we're all reviewing it. I don't expect to have any major changes in it. I've looked at it. I'm not the expert though. Dave Naples is very certified. to do that kind of work, but we do want to have Fred take a look at it.
Right, okay.
Before I turn it over to the chief, I just want to make a comment. I had the ability and the pleasure to go through the town hall yesterday with Mr. Zolper, our town manager, the new town hall, and it is going to be an incredible addition to this town. It is, if you have the vision and you can see what's going to be there, it gives all of our team adequate space. It gives the police department what they have never had, which is a true police department facility. And when I went up to the meeting room, if you can imagine, it's going to be this size. It's almost identical to the size we have here, except that there's going to be windows, there's going to be opening up to an outside deck, and there's not going to be any half-naked lifeguards running around. So in about a year, we'll be in there and we'll be able to conduct the meetings. But I'm really excited to get that moving forward.
Very excited.
Chief?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Just to recap on the paving, as far as when they're finding that there are cars blocking the roads that need to be paved or milled, what we're doing is they're giving us the tags, our dispatcher running the tags, they're trying to call people. My officers are going out and knocking on doors and trying to find the people to move their cars before they are towed. So we're just not going out there and towing, we're trying to call people, and we are going on foot door to door to try to get people to come out and move their cars. I don't know why, a lot of people, they're posting signs and everything, but there's still, some of them are not moving their car. We've had a couple of things. Stuff a Truck, I want to say we're partnering with the fire department and doing the Stuff a Truck donations for Toys for Tots and for needy families in Sussex County. We did have an event at the Starboard for bingo last Thursday, and then we are going to be there on the 30th in front of Dewey Beer Company, collecting toys and cash donations to help with this for the children and the families that are in need. So I like to put that out there. We've been doing seasonal recruiting. We've already started to recruit. We put it out to various colleges and on our website. We've already got 10 applications in. We have 4 returners coming back. We have a bunch of students from the university that were in the cadet program that were some of our seasonals last year. We currently, our success story this year, I believe it's about 7 of our seasonals are actually in police academies right now.
Oh, that's
over the
great.
state. So every year we've been very successful with that. The goal, once again, is to hire 14 this year. We're hoping to start interviewing probably the first week of January because a lot of the college students will be on their winter break. So that is my goal, to get that started already. And then we've already setting up a calendar to start training in April on the weekends like we did because of the college schedule. So hopefully we're going to get a lot more applications in. So we have 10 in right now. We were fortunate enough, thanks to Commissioner Gibbons, to do mental health awareness training at the Hyatt. That was last week, wasn't it? 2 weeks. The weeks are all running together.
I know.
So she set that up for us, and it was a very good class that provided a great opportunity to have a great instructor teach us about mental health. So we're focusing on that for our officers. All our budget requests are completed, so Sheena will have that in, so we're all prepared to go forward with that for the budget committee meeting in December. And our calls for service, this is for the month of October. I do want to add that one of my officers, Officer Adam who graduated the academy in March and was released to solo duty in about May, has made 17 DUI arrests.
Jesus.
So he's done very well with that. All my officers are out there. They are out there daily, doing radar. Stop signs are still out there on Bayard and Route 1 and King Charles. So they're out there doing their jobs.
I see them.
Even though we've slowed down a bit, they're still out there doing their daily traffic. And I'm very proud of Adam for doing that many DUI. He's very focused on that. So our calls for service for the month of October are 542. We had 8 criminal arrests, 160 traffic citations. They ran 336 hours of traffic enforcement. We had 5 accidents, 12 parking citations, 3 civil citations, and we had 1 DUI in October. So obviously everybody's doing very well. We're just doing a lot of training. This is our slower time of year, and we're focusing on, we're going to be at all the holiday events in town, the tree lighting, the Stuff a Truck, the Christmas parades in Rehoboth, other parades around the state that have asked for our help. So we're out and about doing our thing. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Next item is Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber's not here this evening, but if you go to our website and look at the documents that are reported, the Chamber documents are there for your review. Let's get into the meat of the agenda now. Okay. A, review the October 2025 financial reports. Ms. Hall?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. As we approach the end of the calendar year, we have begun the budget prep process. As the chief said, she has turned in, while we've been sitting here, I got their wish list. A couple other departments have given me theirs, and everyone else is to turn theirs in by the end of this month. We've already begun the employee obligations analysis with adding in the Delaware Paid Family Medical Leave Act requirements. I'm doing the analysis to begin with based on the state requirement of 0.08%. However, with us going through a broker, we will be charged a little over about 0.045%. So it will be much less, but I want to get us a start as to where it could possibly be in future years. We're looking forward to the budget workshop on December 8th. I've already been in contact with the chair as to some information she and Commissioner Bowers for information they're looking for. And we're looking forward to your input and guidance on leading us further on. As far as revenues are concerned, transfer tax is still trending ahead of projections, but is slowing. In October, the property transactions only amounted to a little over $8,000 in revenue to the town. So that's 2 very low months this calendar year. Accommodations and hotel lodging tax are both right around budget. Building permits are a little bit below where we projected, but that could change with the wind.
6 more months.
Yeah. That's it. Any questions? And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your help on the new financial layout.
You're welcome. I'll make some comments and
Yeah,
Gary,
go
you can
ahead,
jump
go
in.
ahead.
You know, when I look at the financials, I just want to highlight a few things. I do focus on the year-to-date numbers because I always realize there's going to be some timing difference. But if you look at the financial summary operating, where we had budgeted net operating budget performance year-to-date, after set-asides of $919,000, we're at $1,409,000. So we're $490,000 better than where we anticipate or where we had budgeted. When you look at the financial statements, you have the financial summary operating, which is how the town is running day to day. It doesn't necessarily include capital expenditures. They're just their day-to-day ops. All that data can be found in the full data tab. And what Ms. Hall was able to do this month for us is to create a tab called the monthly pullouts. And that is the bridge between the full data and the operating data. So you can see where those other things that don't affect the general fund or the unassigned fund, how it affects other funds. And then there was the fund balance sheet, which is a first attempt at work in progress to really capture the various funds where we are. So we can look at it. For example, if we move forward on the rainy day fund change that's going to come later in the agenda, we'll be able to track where we are in terms of the goal to where we are right now. So like I said, it's a work in progress. Any suggestions, and the town will continue to improve upon the reporting.
Yeah, I had a few comments.
Yep.
First of all, let me say, I think that we are on track to real clarity and improved predictability about where we think we're going to end up at the end of the year. I think what this new presentation does is it provides a specific connection between net operating performance year-to-date and the unassigned fund. And it's the unassigned fund where we really need to look to if we expect to have some excess revenues at the end of the year that can be devoted to other purposes. So I think we've achieved that. Where I stumble a bit with the new presentation on fund balance is some of the reorganization. A lot of the figures are quite different. The approach toward capital improvement expenditures, it appears what's happened, well, let me back up a second. When we met last month, we talked about a negative fund balance for capital improvements, and we needed a way to solve that. My very simple way of solving that is simply to take money from the unassigned fund, which was quite large, and put that in capital improvements, zero that out, continue to maintain the unassigned fund, and then as we go toward the end of the year, we'll understand better about what kinds of capital improvements we need to make, and do we have money to do that in this year's budget. Instead, the way it looks now, it looks as though we actually haven't spent any money in capital improvements. So I think what happened was there was a reallocation from the unassigned fund to, say, police expenditures, because I think most of the capital improvement expenditures have been for police cars, I believe. And we approved in April an additional police car, but we only allocated, I think, $1,000 or $1,100 to that. And then in April, that was in April, and then in June, we approved another police car for, I think, $65,000. And I don't know if there's one beyond that or not, but I think the result of all of that was the negative balance that we saw in the capital improvement fund last month. So again, I would like to see some reorganization of this. I think what's happened is that, in my view, we've kind of put 100,000 plus extra into capital improvements that we really don't need to do at this point. I'd rather see that in the unassigned fund, so that I would have about 2.15 something like that million in the unassigned fund, and now we have, I think, just over 2 million, maybe approaching 2.1. But I think we're about $100,000 apart. But I think some of this could be not reallocated, but better explained in some cases. In terms of the capital improvement expenditures and the police expenditures, I'd really like to have an accounting, a listing of what's been spent, what the amounts are, so that we can.
I did send it to you.
You did send it to me. Okay.
Yes.
I will take a look at this. In any case, again, I think the bottom line is, I think we're on a good track here. I think there's some things that could be improved. I think there's maybe some better explanations that can be added to these things. But again, with that better connection between net operating performance and the unassigned fund, I think we're really on the right track.
Commissioner Bauer, Gibbings, Jasinski.
No comments, sir.
So, Gary and I we agree to 90%. We always have like 10% where we don't disagree, where we don't necessarily agree. I worked with Tina on this presentation, and the intent was, just as if you remember when we decided to build the town hall, we had capital improvements, and the capital improvement that had accumulation of hotel tax had $2.5 million in it. And we moved an amount, we left 300,000, we moved that into town hall. So the capital improvement, to me, account is where you would pull to fund the various departments when you need for capital improvements. You're absolutely right. Last month's presentation had capital improvements going to -94. But as we're going through this, we went back to the 2026 budget. And with the 2026 budget document, it clearly showed that we were allocating roughly $180,000 to the chief for cars and for AEDs, I believe. AEDs, sorry. And $15,000 to the lifeguards for beach equipment. So my thought process was to put it into those departments and have their spend be where it would be. But what I'd suggest is when we do this December budget workshop, we try to work on also the mechanics, so that we're consistent in terms of how.
Yeah, and two thoughts there. I think while it's true that $182,000 was certainly in the little report that we had, what was necessary to fully fund the FY26 capital expenditures was only $30,000. That was the bottom line. Because we already had $112,000 in there, so we really didn't need an additional $182, and I think that's kind of why we're $100,000 apart. And I think that can be fixed. Let me just say, I'm a little troubled by some of the terminology. I'm not sure, we have budget approved and we have budget spent, and I'm not sure that kind of terminology particularly is appropriate for the unassigned fund. I mean, we don't really approve expenditures from the unassigned fund. I mean, we would reallocate things, but I'm not sure we do that in the budget process.
Exactly.
But I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's mechanics, we can work it
All right, good.
Okay.
All right. That wasn't too painful. All right. Item B, discuss funding efforts for the new town hall, public safety building. Commissioners may vote to refer funding projects to the marketing committee. As Kate had brought up on the screen before, we are doing well in terms of our targeted $500,000 on the donor wall. I believe I can say who it is based upon everyone that we've talked to. And I'll give those thanks in a second. But what I'd really like to do is just have the marketing committee really work on the efforts for the bricks. Because it's going to take a lot of outreach, it's going to take a lot of attending events, to being out there. We'll have, we have roughly until next season to have all of these bricks in place and to have it done. Figure we'll be completing construction in August, and Bill, we can also look to exactly when that needs to be done by for Costello for the install, et cetera. But the brick is something that a lot of communities do, a lot of nonprofits do. I personally have a brick in Baltimore. I actually have 2 different bricks in Baltimore for different projects when I was living there. I am one of the 100 that, for the bricks that are here. It's a nice way of supporting the town, and if you're able to, please do so. In regards to the $345,000 that was listed towards the goal, I'd like to thank Chris and Lori Shell, who contributed $200,000 to that. The Rehoboth by the Sea, the Redifers and Crusoe and the judges and McMahon, they've actually surprised Bill and I incredibly with a $100,000 pledge towards. So that's 300. As of today, the Starboard contributed 20. Starboard / Steve Montgomery, I believe it was $20,000. Jimmy O'Connor and Woody's another $10,000, and the Dewey Business Partnership another $10,000, and Janine Stevens $5,000.
Being Jeff Gossner.
And Jeff Gossner is
$10,000.
$10,000. So it's actually $355, I guess now.
The Civic League is still looking at possibly also donating.
Perfect. Okay. So with that being said, any conversation or any public comment about referring the brick fundraising to the marketing committee?
So what we've talked about in marketing is having a presence at different events, like the tree lighting, and just having a tent set up. Is there a way we can get a brick so that people know what it looks like and, hopefully pick it up and say, hey, I want to put my name on, and here's a picture of the walkway that it would go on. So something along those lines that we could use to help, part of it's being there, but the bigger part is once you're there, how do you engage somebody that they want to do this?
Commissioners, any comments?
No, it's a great idea. I mean, the more attention we can draw to this revenue-raising effort, the better.
Yep.
Then can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 That goes unanimously. C, discuss possible vote to appoint Tara Keplinger to the marketing committee.
Man, that marketing committee's just on fire. Yeah, it's just getting bigger by the day. Yes, I'd like to motion to appoint Tara to it. I don't know if everybody knows, I think everybody knows Tara, but terrific person, does a lot of work around town, gets involved in everything. It would be a great asset to the team if we could bring her on.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Item D, discuss possible vote to appoint Julie Johnson, Donna Alexander, Bernie Kraus, and David Vogt to the audit committee. Commissioner Jazinski?
Yeah, I'm not sure why this is on me because I'm not the liaison to audit. I thought.
I appreciate you stepping in for me.
Never mind, go back to Singapore. Commissioner Gibbon?
The audit committee needs to be filled again, and Yeah, I did not prepare for this, but yes, the audit committee is mine. Do we have any objections to any of these nice
No.
people helping us?
I'd motion to reappoint
Yeah, I'd
them.
second that.
All in favor? Sorry about that.
Aye.
You know,
Aye.
I looked at this thing 1,000 times and I didn't see that, so I apologize, Commissioner.
That's okay.
That passed unanimously also. All right, next item. Discuss and possibly vote on recommendations from the Charter and Code Review Committee to establish a new threshold building permit requirements for maintenance projects intended to keep properties in good repair and functional condition, and provisions for enforcement of requirements and penalties for non-compliance. Commissioner Persinger.
Yeah, before I started, I just want to note that we had two different versions of supporting documents for this agenda item. And the one that we want to talk from, and the one hopefully that anybody who's listening will look at, is the one that says on page 2, building permit recommendations, compiled by Commissioner Persinger based on recommendations from the Charter and Code Review Committee. It also has a note at toward the bottom about property maintenance recommendations and code excerpts, committee copy. In red, it says that this item, as I noted earlier, this item will not be discussed today, but it's provided for informational purposes. And these are recommendations that came from the Charter and Code Committee, Code Review Committee, and we will be taking these up hopefully in December and probably no later than January, but hopefully we'll be able to do this in December. So that said, since we're talking about building permits, I want to just provide you with a little bit of overview on how well, or not well perhaps, if you want to think about it that way, the building permit process works. The town put together some data for us. This is for, and Laura, I believe you put this together as well, so if I say anything wrong, you can certainly correct me. This is based on permits that were issued from April 1 of this year to September 30th of this year. And you can see the number of permits. There was a total of, do we have a total number there?
No, I didn't.
But you can add that up. In any case, there were 38 permits, for example, that were from $0 to $1,000. This is total cost. Oh, 271? Okay.
274.
274 permits issued during that time period. We have the average number of days that it takes to process those permits. And you can see the most expensive projects, those that are greater than $10,000, take the longest time. That's not unexpected. And the ones below that, there's some variation in there. But none of this takes very much time. These are all based on business days, not calendar days. So if you submit your permit application on Friday afternoon and you get it approved by on Monday, it's 1 day. It's not 3. There's no reason to count the weekend days. I think those figures also are elevated just a bit because there are certain situations where you need a county permit. What the town does is they inform the property owner that they have to get a permit from the county for certain maintenance or certain construction or maintenance activities, and that simply takes time. It's on the property owner to go get that permit and come back and show it to the town, and then the rest of the permit process can continue from that point. There are also situations, I think, where a property owner doesn't submit all the required information that's on the application form. And so the town staff have to go back and ask for additional information. That takes time as well and can delay that. But again, overall, I don't think, the picture here, this is not a terribly burdensome process. I think it works fairly efficiently. So that said, Charter and Code Committee have been working on some recommendations. There have been some expressions of interest from members of the community in making some changes, particularly for some of the smaller projects that perhaps one might not expect to even need to apply for a building permit. When we talked about this last in September, we had a recommendation from Charter and Code that, let me say first of all, we have existing in our current code, there is an exception for maintenance projects that are less than $1,000 in material cost. We don't have a specific definition for maintenance activities, but yeah, I think the town does deal with that particular exception as best they can. The idea here is that we want to tighten up this process a bit. That's the recommendation at least, and actually have a specific definition for maintenance activities and include some examples so that property owners will have a better idea of what qualifies as maintenance and what doesn't. When we talked about this in September, we had a recommendation from Charter and Code that we increase that $1,000 materials exception, raise that up to $3,500. When we discussed it at the table, everyone thought that it would be better to deal with total project costs. You don't normally get materials costs broken out in a proposal for construction and maintenance activities. And so we went back to, we were also asked to make this proposal a bit more specific. So I agreed to go back and do that. Also asked if it was okay if we worked with the Charter and Code Committee, Code Review Committee to refine this process. And that's what we have now. So the basic threshold that we, of $3,500 was increased to $10,000. Just doing a quick search with a little bit of AI help, it looks like in general that maintenance projects, about a third of the cost of a maintenance project could be materials costs. So that's how we went to the threshold of $10,000. So what the committee has come up with is a specific definition of maintenance activities, including some examples. And then they've classified maintenance activities by total cost, and that is materials and labor. First of all, minor maintenance projects. Those would be activities that satisfy the maintenance definition with total cost less than $1,000. And then secondly, intermediate maintenance activities that satisfy the maintenance definition with total costs equal to or greater than $1,000, but less than $10,000. Any service, repair, or routine work that qualifies as minor property maintenance, that is less than $1,000 in total cost, would require no notification to the town, and work could begin immediately. For intermediate maintenance activity, there would be a requirement that the town be notified, either through email or preferably a new form, or maybe even the existing form that we have for building permits. The town really has to have some information about this, these kinds of projects, because there is the potential for certain projects that maybe the property owner believes is maintenance really are not maintenance. They wouldn't qualify according to the definition. So the property owner would have to provide information substantiating the total cost for any intermediate maintenance activity, and there would be no permit fees for any intermediate maintenance project. Any project that's $10,000 or greater would be considered the permit threshold activity. So those kinds of projects would have to go, whether they're maintenance or not, would have to go through the full permit process just as they do now. For maintenance activities in a floodplain, for properties in a floodplain, which is somewhere around 2/3 of our town, any maintenance effort must not increase the structure's market value by 50% or more. That's pretty unlikely for a project that's less than $10,000, unless you've just gone through some major renovation that kept you below the 50% threshold, and then a small maintenance project may kick you over that. It's very unlikely that you would encounter that. Projects could also not involve expansion, elevation, or enclosure of the structure, and they must not compromise flood-resistant design or materials. So let me just skip to the next page. The definition. We have a general definition which basically says that maintenance would include activities or projects intended to keep a building safe, sanitary, structurally sound, and in functional condition consistent with the requirements of the Dewey Beach Code and other applicable standards. So maintenance activities would include routine upkeep of structures and premises, non-structural repairs that do not alter the building's footprint or load-bearing elements, cosmetic improvements, repairs that are typically aesthetic in nature and do not involve major construction or code compliance issues. And then we have a number of examples, if you will. They're called defined standards for property maintenance, but I think those are all pretty clear and reasonably self-explanatory. What I've added here too is some additional data. Building permits is an important revenue stream for the town, and 20% of those revenues goes to the infrastructure fund to fund those kinds of activities. So there's a question about what the financial loss would be to the town if we were to accept these kinds of recommendations. So I took a look at the most recent 12-month period that was available. The town is now, for your information, the town has now begun to publish on the website monthly reports on building permits. So every building permit for each month is now listed, and that's where I pulled this data from. So for October 24 through September 25, I saw a total of 439 permits. There were $595,000 in total fees that were generated by those permits. For projects less than $10,000, there were 204 permits that generated fees of just over $44,000. What we hadn't looked at before was if you look at each of those permits and make a decision about whether or not those would qualify as maintenance projects. And so I did that. There are probably some errors in there, but I think this is a reasonable approximation of what the effects might be. Maintenance projects that cost less than $10,000 there were 152 permits. Those projects generate almost $20,000 in town revenue. I took one additional look at maintenance projects that cost less than $7,500. There were 130 of those permits, and the fees generated by those projects is about $14,000. So, there's certainly a question of, if we were to accept these recommendations, are we willing to give up about $20,000 in revenue to get the kinds of efficiencies that are suggested here for property owners? We could tighten the screen down to a threshold down to $7,500. It's only about $14,000 in revenue loss. So that, I think, is a key question that we need to grapple with. Let me stop there and see if there are any questions or comments about this. There's a lot of material here. We do at some point need to talk about enforcement if we decide to go forward with this, but I think we need to get some general thoughts about whether or not this kind of change is something that we want to go forward with.
Good, Commissioner Barrow.
Gary, yeah, that's great work on that. So when I look at it, I always go back to the original premise of what are we trying to solve? And my impression is that we're trying to make it easier for the property owner to get work done. So, with that, there's the financial side of it that we have to say, are we reasonable with what we're charging, or are we unreasonable? Where do we get the money from? And do we need to build this into next year's budget? So, those are my two thoughts. And to sidetrack a little bit, I'm on state committee that there's a software program called Infilla that I was just on, that the state's trying to coordinate all the zoning code of the state, county, and municipalities, and trying to incorporate all 57 municipalities into one software program isn't really easy. But it's something that's coming down the pike, but it makes the building officials work a lot easier. So that's coming down the road, because I think the argument that contractors have is that it takes too long to get the permit, and you make me do this, that, and the other thing, right? You hear all the complaints. I don't hear them as much as you guys do, but most of it is the incomplete work that is supplied to begin with, that keep going back for more information. So what this software does is tries to sort through all that. So that's coming down the pipe. It's at least a year away, but it's something to consider. There'll probably be a cost back to the town. I'm trying to get the state, if you want us to use it, then you should give us a grant for it or something. So we'll work on that to get it paid for, but that would be something that would help streamline this as well.
Commissioner Gibbons?
So the making it easier for folks in town, absolutely want to simplify things, because I think people are not abiding because they don't know they need to. would this also make it easier for the administrative staff of the town? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not part of the administrative staff of the town, so I can't
Does this
answer that
seem-
definitively, but I would expect there would be some level of efficiency. And if you're
Okay.
talking about a project that's between $1,000 and $10,000, they get information back on a form that seems sufficient. They can provide very quick notification back to the property owner. And they really wouldn't have to go any further than that, other than just maintaining that record, hopefully in some sort of electronic form. There wouldn't be a need to issue building permits or, as I understand it there, I heard Jim Dedes make a comment the other evening that there's a very large number of permits that they actually have to go back and contact the property owner to get them to pick them up. They just kind of sit there. So I think there's some efficiencies there. They wouldn't have to make those kinds of notifications. The other thing, let me just mention this too. I don't think I said this, but for projects that are less than $1,000, these are maintenance projects. I actually found very few of those. There were only about 9 that I found, and the amount of revenue that's generated in fees is only maybe $500. So you're not talking about a great revenue loss. But I suspect that there are probably a lot of projects that people do that they don't have any idea that they might need a building permit for, so they just do it and they don't get it. But this would alleviate, if you went with the $1,000 threshold for those very minor, well, the $1,000, just for minor maintenance projects, which you could basically start right away without notification. Then, you can replace a doorknob, you can repair drywall, you can.
I could hang new curtains, because I'm looking at this, I maybe should have, I don't have curtains, but maybe I should have had a permit to hang curtains.
But there's
Everybody
certainly
should have
lots of
curtains.
minor maintenance activities that you could go ahead and do without worrying that you're violating any of the building permit requirements.
Commissioner Jazinski.
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for all the work, and especially coming up with a list of what the maintenance things are. I guess a couple of things that I think we definitely want to, if we haven't already spent some time talking and allowing the building inspector to do some research on, specifically around things like replacing window and doors and plumbing and whatnot. Specifically with window and doors, there are both FEMA as well as insurance and regulations about like the DP level that you have to have for windows and doors. And if someone on an older house might be replacing with the same size, they can end up mistakenly not put in the like wind resistant windows that are actually now required by code. So we really want to think about windows and doors, whether we want to be doing that. And then on the plumbing and electric, I definitely think that we should explicitly state that if any plumbing outlets are added or moved, that it automatically requires a permit. And the same thing for electrical work. And again, we want our building inspector to really check with what the county requires and making sure that we're not kind of getting in a situation telling people no permit, but the county say, well, wait a minute, you have to have a permit for that type of thing. As far as the total level of dollars, there are some things that I think that just should never require a permit. One of the biggest one to me is painting. I don't know how much painting you're doing, but I can't imagine why it would ever require a permit. But $10,000, whatever, if we have to have that level. And the flooring replacement certainly is good as well. HVAC repairs, I think clearly those are things that, could be considered minor maintenance. When you go to replace a outside unit, if you're replacing the unit, if you're in a flood zone, frequently those units were not actually put up to where they need to be put up and they need to be elevated. There's a potential exposure there. But overall, I think it's a pretty good idea. In terms of the lost fees, Commissioner Perkinger, if I'm reading this correctly, if it's $10,000 for the stuff that would be within the maintenance scope as defined above, it's a $20,000 permanent reduction in revenue. Our building permit revenue is one of those items that we always try to trend and guess every year, and it usually ends up higher than we project. At this kind of dollar level, I'm more concerned about us getting it right than trying to tweak whether we're going to fall 14,000 or 19,000 short. I think that those are kind of rounding errors, and that we should really just be tweaking on getting it right, trying to make it easy for people, but also not putting us in a situation where some people, who are definitely a small minority, but try to kind of sneak through the building permit process and get stuff done that, you know, shouldn't be happening. So that's my feedback. I think it's pretty good work, and we have the ability to make things easier for people with something like this.
From my perspective, again, yeah, Gary, great work on this, went through it in detail. I absolutely think we need to increase the threshold. I mean, you really can't get anything done for $1,000 these days, even if you can get a contractor to come out to your house. I can echo Commissioner Jasinski's comment. I was surprised to see the window component of minor, and it's probably because I'm going through that process right now, because it's really not a minor. That's the only one that I'm not replacing windows or doors, not something here, because again, not that people try to get around or skirt around it, but they can say, well, I'm only going to do one window at a time, versus a full house project in which if you're getting 5 windows and 5
Yeah.
doors, that's
Come back next
15
week, do the
grand.
next window.
Right. So that's my only comment on that. Regarding the fees, I think simplifying the process, I don't think $20,000 is going to kill us from a budgetary perspective. But as I was looking at your supporting documentation, and I know this hasn't been discussed, so I'm not saying that we would add this into it, I was surprised at how low a tear down fee was. And immediately I had the thought of, all right, well, if it's only $1,500 for a tear down, if we make that $2,500, then we basically get half that money back anyway. So it's just that, just as a thought process throughout.
What, 14 tear downs?
I think it was 11 tear downs this year so far. So I mean, that's halfway back. Again, if you're buying a property for $1 million and tearing down your house, I don't think $2,500 versus $1,500 or $3,000, but we can discuss it. Anyone here for public comment in regards to this? Yes, sir. Come on up.
Hello, sir. State your name, where you're from.
Oh, he's
Thank you,
opening-
sir. I'm still Ed Kleeman. I still live at 106 Sweet Street. One thing, I think $1,000 is completely too low. I agree with that. I'm going to go back to something Commissioner Bauer said. What are we trying to solve here? When I hear some members of the community, is that 1, is that 2, is that 5? Have we had a lot of issues as it relates to property maintenance? If so, how many? Where's the documentation supporting that showing this is a big issue? I hear comments about National Electric Code and starting to contradict other code. Code is driven by a point of safety. And I think that if we're not very careful when you do more restrictions, it drives people to do the opposite. So now you have people thinking you think you're coming from a point of safety, but you're not. And you discourage people to do the right thing. The other thing I want to bring up is that there was reference in some of these conversations the last couple of weeks of some of this being driven by the National Flood Insurance Program. Earlier today, part of the 2005 DES version was posted online. I think, number one, if we're going to reference national programs, we should probably put that supporting documentation up a little sooner. Also, that program's been updated in 2012 and 2014, and the new versions come out in October of 2025 from a handbook perspective. So as somebody that's a certified emergency manager for the last 20 years, this isn't my area of specialty, but I certainly reached out to some of my counterparts up and down the East Coast. Nobody is tracking maintenance issues from this mechanism as part of the National Flood Insurance Program that I'm aware of. So I don't know if that's misguidance by everybody else on the East Coast or us, but I certainly, if there's an October 2025 version of this, I would certainly recommend looking and making sure that we're in line with current requirements versus doing something that you would have to go back to change. And again, from a public perspective, the more supporting documentation and the more information you guys put out ahead of time takes away that perception of something's being done in a sneaky fashion. And I know that's not the intent. I know most of you well enough, but that's some of the perception that's starting to creep back around here again. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you, Ed.
I'm sort of honestly puzzled by that perception because, everything's done in public meetings and we do put out as much documentation as possible. I am very interested, though, in your comment that there is a more recent October 2025 version of that handbook. Because I've been looking for an updated publication. A 20-year-old publication is not, going to be real good guidance. Lots of things could have changed in 20 years, certainly.
Lots changing.
I suspect maybe publication of that is perhaps delayed because the government was shut down for so long. I know that there was one question posed to FEMA during the whole process that we've been going through over the past several weeks. And the answer back from FEMA was, we'll get back to you as soon as we open up again. So, I'm not
Well,
sure, if you've seen a copy of it, or if you've got a link, I'd certainly love to see that.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick, just, and I'm.
You gotta do it
because I
with the
work in that
microphone, Ed.
world,
Right.
you know, certainly the problems with federal documents and the Code of Federal Regulations, there's a lot of interpretation. And it's hard to get to the right person. But if you guys need to if you're having trouble getting to the right person from FEMA, I have a lot of relationships, I work with them on a daily basis, can certainly help put you in touch with people that could say, what is the intent of this language and what is the requirements, and happy to do that.
I just want to make a quick comment. We don't normally comment but since we don't have a completely full room, the goal of this council has always been to not push things through that are going to make the life of the residents worse. It's how do we make it better? How do we make it easier? How do we put more common sense into some things and get rid of some of the things that are outdated, which was the intent of this here. I mean, we've heard from business owners, we've heard from residents that there's an issue with having to get a permit to paint, having to get a permit to do some of these basic things that I'm not saying Commissioner Gibbings is putting up her own draperies or doing it, but she may or she may not based upon what she slipped on. But we're trying to make it better. And when we come to general maintenance of properties, I think we're talking about that right here, that's gonna form an issue, is to protect the value of your homes. If you live next to a property that's unkept and is disheveled, it affects the value of your home, affects the perceived value of your home. So our goal is really to protect the homeowners and to continue to protect the property values that we have here.
So, Mr. Mayor, I think Jim Dedes had some comments.
Mr. Dedes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to comment on the 2005 FEMA manual that was put out on the property requirements and management of requirements. And Dawn, our building official, Dawn Hinks, went to a training this past week. And what she discovered was this was the training manual that FEMA provided for the most current manual that they had available as far as requirements for floodplain management. So if there is something new, they certainly didn't provide it at the training section. And we would welcome any assistance the name of the gentleman that was up a few minutes ago it escapes me, but we would welcome assistance. Ed?
Ed Kleeman.
Okay, Ed, thank you for that. And we may be back in touch with you regarding this. I just want to make a comment that the floodplain management, all this floodplain, that goes back to 1982 when the town was created. They adopted all these documents, the NFIP, the community rating system, and so forth. So this is nothing new to the town. It's just people, I think, are becoming more aware of it. And we agree that it may not be the best, but our job is to enforce what the code requires us to do in the building department. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Jim, can you explain what happens if we're not part of the international flood or the flood insurance plan if you go try to get a mortgage in that area where there is a floodplain?
As we understand it, if we back out of all this in the NFIP, the existing rates most people won't be able to get FEMA insurance. That's what this document tells us, that you may have to go to a private sector completely, and it's hard enough to get insurance in this area to begin with, and a lot of companies won't even take insurance. But the entire community would not be able to get flood insurance from the NFIP. Which really to me is pretty disastrous because we have so many people that do get the flood insurance. That's the worst scenario that can happen.
Well, I mean, it's clearly our intent that whatever changes we make, we don't want to affect our participation in the NFIP.
Correct.
I mean, this-
No, I'm not bringing that we would want to get out. I'm just making a comment that came up in the training that Ms. Hicks was involved in, and they were just showing the pros and cons of benefiting and non-participation and participation.
All right, that being
I
said,
got a comment.
go ahead.
And it looks like it does. Does this address, remember maybe a year and a half ago, a lot of the businesses wanted to know, is there a way that they could just get all these small permits done all at once, before the season, as opposed to showing up every Monday morning to fix a toilet somewhere. So I guess this really takes care of that issue.
This would address commercial needs as well as residential.
Yeah. But the conflict was, and if I remember Dawn telling us then, is we need to track all those things. So at this point, Jim, are we safe with NFIP if we don't track all these events?
We're safe if we don't get caught. That's what I can say is, as I understand it, permits have to be submitted to the town for any construction in a floodplain.
Construction.
So all this is going to help. What we can do is fast track 1,000. What we really want to do is try to figure out what people are doing, because we get complaints all the time. And Gary, you and I have chatted about this in length. People see somebody coming in and a work truck coming in, and they want to know what's going on. And if we don't know what's going on, we're going to send somebody out to investigate what's going on and ask for documentation. And that's the dilemma that we have, is how do we know it's under 10,000 or what? Well, right now for under 1,000, you can call us up and all we need to know is what the address is where you're working, so we know what's going on.
That's the current exception. That's the $1,000 in
Yes.
materials cost. What we're talking about with this change here, though, is not the only category of projects that we have where there wouldn't be documentation would be those that are less than $1,000 in
Right.
cost.
I just want to make
For
sure we're
everything
safe
above
there.
that,
Right.
what between $1,000 and $10,000, there would be documentation. The property owner would have to submit something by email,
Right.
or preferably a new form or the current form, just saying, here's what I'm going to be doing, here's the total cost.
So there's
here's
still a
some
documentation.
documentation of that cost, and the town just needs to.
No fee, just
to maintain
documentation.
that. Right. And, the town has documentation so that they do a scan of that and say, well, that's not a maintenance project, or, that does have implications for this property in terms of the floodplain.
The impression I got from the public comments made back to me in this past week was that, they just want to do it without even documentation. And I think that's the hardest part of it, right?
Yeah, I don't think I think there's a small set of projects for which we can say we don't need documentation, but I think by and large, we need to have some kind of documentation. But, certain projects, again, less than $10,000 don't have to go through the full building permit process.
Guys, if I could say something, I think part of the reason why you have to have this notification process is so that our building official can keep a running tab of your improvements. Because for the 50% requirement on having to meet floodplain requirements, it's cumulative. It's not just any one project. And so a lot of this is just her being able to add it up over a period of years if someone were to do a serial set of smaller projects.
There is no cumulative requirement. You can adopt that. That is perhaps a recommended best practice that FEMA might recommend, but you do not, as a municipality, for participation in the flood insurance program, have to accumulate modifications to your property. You don't have to do that.
Okay.
We don't.
If you're sure that that's.
Yeah.
No, that's correct, Gary. Thank you for bringing that up. Well, I did want to mention that even though you do, let's say you do go to 10,000, we don't, whatever the town decides, we will comply with, obviously. But there are cases like, and I'm going to bring up the windows. If you do two or more, if you do a third window replacement, it has to go to the county. We don't have a choice in that.
Plumbing?
It depends. It depends what it is. For example, if you want to take out, let's say you want to take out you got a problem with your water leak and you have to go to the main water line. The plumber has to go to that. It may only cost $1,000. County needs to be notified that they're doing any work on the main water line coming in. They have to get permission from the water authority. So, I mean, there are a lot of things that we don't control that the county does that may fall into the under the $10,000. I bring it on because it's not quite as simple as us ignoring it.
Well, it's not just a threshold that we're establishing, we're also trying to provide a more specific definition of what would qualify as maintenance.
Right.
So that, the leak, kind of leak that you just described would not qualify as maintenance under the proposal that we have here. So, it would still require going through the building permit process, and it would have opportunity therefore to notify the property owner that they have to get a county permit. Let me suggest, I asked for this to be a discuss and vote item for the agenda today. I think perhaps it's best if we don't try to vote on anything, but we try to put this proposal into some sort of legislative language that we can then come back and consider. It would also give us some time to do some tweaking based on some of the comments that we've got today. We have to do that anyway. This is not legislative language, even if we vote today. Just voting on putting these specific things into a legislative document.
I'm fine with that, but I was curious if so what I've heard, or what I believe from what we've discussed, is that there's a general agreement that we should move the threshold up, that there should be the not requiring permits for routine, but permits even without the fee for some intermediate stuff.
Right.
I think, from my own perspective, we can just, when it does from a discuss and possibly vote, the windows to me is, again, something that I'm not sure that should be in there, because I don't look at that as
should be tweaked,
routine
sure.
maintenance. Did you want to discuss now the enforcement piece of this, or do you want to table that into?
I think we could put that into legislative language and then come back and discuss it.
Okay.
I don't think we have to do that today. There is one thing that I would mention, though. When the town manager was providing his report and talking about the property on Route 1, he noted that there may be a need for providing some inspection opportunity, particularly when there's a property that qualifies to use dry flood proofing, and they've chosen to do that. As my understanding, there have been very few properties that have done dry flood proofing. I know the New Grotto, this new project, and I'm not
The
sure.
Hyatt, the New Grotto, there's one other one that Jim Dedes is aware of.
Nick's Golf.
So
Those are the three.
it's not something that the town has a lot of experience with. But I think there is a more general concern that whatever is permitted is actually what is built. And there is some thought that we may want to establish some sort of threshold, say for projects that are maybe $15,000 or $20,000, that there be built in some inspection opportunity to make sure that, you've got a building permit application, it gets approved, you have all of the required information about that, but then does the contractor or the property owner follow through and actually follow what was in that building permit application?
So what we would suggest would be, there's actually, for those type, the commercial dry flood proofing, we would actually have a fee that they would have to pay for that inspector to come out.
Yeah.
What that fee may be, that'll be something to commissioners, but there's going to have to be a fee to cover the inspector that is coming out.
Well, I mean, we could offer that, or do that same thing as well, just in a more general way in terms of inspection. There's also some concern, and this is, again, from some of the members of the Charter and Code Review Committee, that no one's really validating the quality of the construction. I don't think that's something the town can be involved in. I think, at best, the town may want to suggest a contractor to the property owner, so that, or not a contractor or inspector to the property owner, so that if that property owner is concerned about the potential quality of the job that's done, that property owner could then engage that inspector and at the property owner's cost. So that's another issue.
I don't believe.
I have a question.
Go ahead, David.
So on this, the kind of post or close to finishing inspections, I know certain things trigger a certificate of occupancy and other things don't continue, trigger that. And I'm not sure from Mr. Dedes' perspective, so he's on the line, when the town is involved in issuing a certificate of occupancy, because that's our chance to kind of inspect to make sure that it was done as permitted. And if we have an opportunity to insert ourselves, and as Mr. Zolpich said, charge a fee for that to ensure it was built as permitted.
Well, if we put that language in the certification, and, when we put it in the legislative version of it, I agree. I mean, if people want inspections, I think most people don't want us going in their homes afterwards, but do we have to just do it on commercial? Do we do it on residential as well?
I don't think we really want to be
I
doing
don't want to do it at
inspections.
all.
What we're really looking at is zoning. What we're really looking at are zoning requirements for certain zones where you build and setbacks. And Jim, am I missing anything else?
No, sir. We do issue COs. We do actually go on property on new construction or major remodeling to make sure that what they said that they were building, that they did build. For example, if you put down that you were putting down 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, we will go in to confirm that they built 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. And then we will go through the zoning and setback requirements. We do take measurements. We look at the original permit that was issued. We ask for the as-built surveys to be completed. So we do inspections, but it's based on zoning and our building, what they put down for building. But not necessarily, we're not going to go in if you did a countertop and a kitchen. No, we trust you to do a countertop and a kitchen. And even if we went in, all we would, it has nothing to do with quality. It's really, did you do what you did? And we've discussed this, that really people need to make sure they get a good contractor.
Right. If you're
That's
doing
the
it,
big issue.
if you're doing it for major remodeling, I don't know what additional we would really need to do. And I mean, as someone pointed out, we're not looking for quality. So what else would we need to inspect other than major remodeling and new construction?
Additions. So they can do a small addition. They could put a shed in. We might have to go out there and take a look that it's 3 feet away. I mean, those are the kinds of, it's small stuff that we do.
We look at fences to make sure the survey's done, make sure the fences, the heights are correct on the fences. That's a huge issue. Pools, when they're put in, to make sure they're put in and the setbacks are correct on the pools.
But there is also, Jim, you mentioned this the other evening, a memorandum of understanding with the county.
Yes.
Do certain inspections as well for certain things.
Well, they do all the building construction inspections, but they don't do every inspection. For example, they won't come out and do an electrical inspection. They rely on the master electrician to certify that. They do the same with the plumbing. The only time they get involved is that example I give you for doing major water cutoffs. The county, not the building department, but the Sussex Water will come out and make sure it was done.
You have a copy of that MOU, I assume you could provide?
It was given, yeah, we did provide it, and I sent it to David.
Oh, to David Lyons?
Yeah, I did. He asked for a copy, and I sent it to him, but it's there.
Okay.
Commissioner Gibbings?
So I feel like I'm playing catch up a little bit as the newest member on council, even though I've been here a long time. When I came on board, I was told that we have to do what we're talking about because of FEMA. But then I don't hear that FEMA is like asking us to give proof every year. Have you done these things? So are we really doing what FEMA wishes us to do? Or are we doing what FEMA thinks we need to do? And if I understood Ed, there's a new book now that we're supposed to be following. I'm confused.
Let me.
Because I was like, we can't lose the house flood insurance. I got that part, but.
The documentation needs, from my understanding, the documentation, the changes that you have done to your house need to be collected. So that if FEMA ever came in,
If they ever
we
came.
have the documents.
They do audits.
Yeah, if they do the audits. If they do, right. They do, but if they do. So we're following that,
Okay,
but the main intent here is to make the resident have the ability to easily have improvements, especially small maintenance things
Yes.
done without going through a strenuous process. So
but we still have to have that they're doing
for
it.
the non-routine, small maintenance stuff.
Okay,
So what, we're gonna table this?
For now, I think
Okay.
put this into legislative language, tweak it based on the comments that we've gotten so far. If there's any additional information that's
Okay.
available, we'll build that as well and then come back and hopefully we can do it again in December. If not, it would slip to January.
Perfect. We can move that to the December agenda then. All right, let's move on. Discussion of status of resiliency and sustainability. Committee's effort to develop a town resiliency plan related to climate change and flooding risk and plan for town council discussion with potential contractors at the December meeting. Commissioner Persinger, do you want me to get you a glass of water?
No, it's okay, it's okay. Again, I want to thank Kate again for putting all this material together. There is quite a bit of material that the committee has worked on and has generated as part of this. And just by way of history, the committee has come up with a number of recommendations over the past couple of years, and probably the most significant of which was the increase in the freeboard that we approved over the last year. So I think that's good. That, again, that helps us with our participation in the National Flood Insurance Program. That standard goes up over and above what is required by FEMA. When we talked about this, particular project, the resiliency plan for the town. We talked about it a couple of times. And initially, the commissioners thought that it was a good idea, and they asked that we go back and do some more developmental work on that. In particular, I can make my screen a little bigger so I can read it. To go back and draft a scope of work, interview potential consultants, determine the approximate cost, and identify any possible sources of external funding. The committee did develop a set of questions that they asked for potential contractors to respond to. We did get an initial response from GMB. That was the only one that we had at the last time we talked about this. And I think the members of the town council thought that this was a worthwhile project to continue developing, but they wanted more specific information about what the potential value of this would be to the town. I think that based on some comments I've heard from the town manager, how does this differ from some of the work that's been done already with respect to stormwater management and the kinds of projects that the town might engage in that would help to better handle the problems that we have in stormwater management. So we now have a second contractor who's interested in a project. That's Strawn Environmental, I believe it is. The members of the committee were interested in having these individuals come and present to the town council. I think that's probably the best opportunity for the commissioners to get a chance to answer their own questions and to hear from the contractors how they've approached the projects that they have worked on and what they see as the value to the municipalities that they've worked with. I believe they've worked with Bethany, Fenwick Island, I believe. St. Michael's, there was a report from St. Michael's that's included in the packaging materials here. Both gentlemen are available to present at our December meeting. So I would hope we would schedule them for presentations at that time. I hope commissioners would have an opportunity to review some of the materials. If you've got any questions about the materials or what the committee has been doing, please direct them back to me. I can answer those questions individually, not in group. Or go back to the chair or the other members of the committee to get more information about it. Again, I think this is a worthwhile project to consider. It helps us to look a bit more long range in terms of what kinds of strategies we might pursue over the next 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years. The time horizon is something that would be a part of what gets determined in doing this project. It would be an opportunity in doing this kind of project from getting input from the various stakeholders in the community. That's an important part of it as well. Again, we can have the presentation in December. I think it's a worthwhile presentation. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to discuss those as well.
Do you have a question? Commissioner Gibbons? Commissioner Jazinski?
No questions.
I'll just make one comment before we move on to the next agenda. I had breakfast this past week with Tony Pratt, who was the former person who ran DENREC for the state of Delaware. And one of the things we discussed was the fact that the current administration, the current governor, is very data-driven, and that the information that he'll make decisions on, where funding will go, how funding will be spent, what projects will move forward, really depends upon the data. Really depends, not just saying, hey, we need this, but an actual report to support it and to have it done. So when I think about us spending $55,000 on an annual audit to prove that we're doing everything right, which is a look back and potentially, 50 to 75,000 of really protecting our future in support of grants and funds to protect the beaches in the bay, it's an important investment for the community. So look forward to having this presentation in December. G, discuss possible amendments to Chapter 167, Article 2 of the Town Code to adjust the beach assessment tax rate following the Sussex County property tax assessments. Now, make sure there's no misconception or misperception of what we're trying to do. We're not trying to increase the beach tax to everybody. We're trying to just bring us into the current rate. It is assumed to be revenue neutral as we move forward, but we will potentially in the budget meeting look at in the future if that rate and what that might be, when we can talk about this today. Well, the documents that are provided on the website, show us from a calculation perspective that if we went to, let me take a step back. If you look at the current code for Dewey Beach and looking at 16710, which is what we're trying to fix here, and I'll read what it says. It says the tax rate shall be 40 cents per $100 of a 1992 assessed value as determined by the Sussex County. Now, that's what we're trying to fix, is that this is from 1992 rates that we've been applied and to put it towards the current tax rate. The documents will show you out there, and I thank Commissioner Persinger for putting this together. But if you look at the tax calculation worksheet, it has all of the property tax that's currently being assessed on our $1.8 billion community now, which is unbelievable, is that if we applied a 1.13, I'm sorry, that's wrong. If we applied a 1.110164, it gets us to the exact same number that we have right now. Your property times this number, there are pluses and minuses. Some people win, some people lose, but it really puts everybody into a current level playing field, regardless of what's happened to the property. For conversation, I'll put out for council, we'll put out for public comment. My only thing is I don't like that many decimal points. So I was hoping we can limit it to maybe 3 decimal points
I was going to say
on the
1.1,
calculation,
but
and possibly talk about if there's a target, like if the target is $205,000 for the beach fund and we're rounding, how do we get to that number? So first of all, is anyone public comment on amending 167, specifically 16710, with the intent of just putting it to today's property values, not those from 33 years ago? We're going to hold on that because when the clerk gets back, but any comments from council on this?
no, I think it's a wise way to do it. I mean, everybody knows their property got reassessed. So if we use that same 40 cents per 100, your bill went up a lot. So taking 40 cents down to, what is it?
It ends up being, as calculated by our mathematician, 0.01100164 times your property.
So we're
tax.
down, we went from 40 cents to a penny?
Pretty much, but it's bigger numbers.
Yeah, the thing that I wanted to do, the reason I did the spreadsheet was just so that I could see what the differential impact would be on people, depending on where they were and where they would be under the new assessment. And it looks like about 80% of properties would be within plus or minus $50 of what they paid last year. And 95% of properties would be within plus or minus $100 of what they paid last year. So that's obviously most of the properties. There would be some big differential effects. There would be a few properties that would have an increase of $200 to $600. But that's, those are anomalous situations. We may want to look more closely at some of those outliers. There would be at least 4 properties that would save $1,000 or more based on what they paid last year. But again, those are anomalies. Those are things we can look at more closely. But again, 95% of the people would be within $100 of what they paid last year.
Any other comments, council?
If it's one, why don't we just make it an even penny? Can we go 2 cents?
No.
Then you're collecting less money.
I thought we're down to 1 cent.
Well, I think if we went to 0.012 perhaps, I haven't looked at that, what the rate would be, but I don't know if I can do that quickly.
I was trying to keep it simple.
Kate, is there anyone
Working whole pennies, not
From-
fractional pennies. This isn't.
that wants some
Bitcoin.
public comment on this?
No one's reached out in chat, but you have a number of people in the waiting room, so I'll just ask if anyone wants to make comment, just unmute yourself.
Pat, you don't want to talk about this?
Not about this one, because it's going to bring a lot of people out.
I just think we need to keep it as close to the same as we can.
No doubt.
Yeah. So I'll motion to approve that if there's no more public comment.
If we were to put it at 0.0111, I think you can remember
Oh,
that.
this is discuss only. This isn't discuss and vote. I'm
Oh, okay, yeah, but as a discussion, if we put it at 0.0111, as I calculate it, again, my decimal point issue
Here we go.
is, come on. It would increase our current tax of 203,651 to 205,871. So it's a nominal increase.
It's a rounding error, right?
So, this is a discuss. We'll look for any more additional public comment, but again, this is just to bring us to date. It's not, and to level the playing field based upon current property values. All right. H, discuss possible vote on resolution to approve the amended general fund balance policy as recommended by the Finance Committee. Commissioner Gibbons.
So this began with a discussion between Commissioner Persinger and our auditor, because we kept having to make adjustments that seemed inappropriate. We are not saying that the balances should change. The rainy day fund should stay at the 50% and the unassigned fund balance at 15%. But we just want to tie it, the committee proposes that we tie it to the previous financial year balance, not the current.
As opposed to chasing it 12 times through the year.
So we should choose last year, make our set-asides that way, and make it easier.
Anyone here for public comment on the general fund balance policy revisions? Anyone online for general fund balance policy revisions?
It's really a fascinating topic. I
know, right?
Getting more comment.
Council,
I'll motion to approve.
Well, let me make a
it's only for council. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to recognize that when we get into the budget process, we have to build into that budget process regular contributions to the rainy day fund, so that at the end of next year, we will have in the rainy day fund 50% of the operating expenditures for FY '27. So that's a change in the budget process. We have to build that in. The other thing I was going to mention, we are in effect, we have already satisfied for this year. If we change the policy now, we have already satisfied what we need to do for the rainy day fund and the unassigned fund. Because,
Assuming budget equals actual.
yes. Which means there's probably a little extra money because we're now contributing a small amount of money from transfer tax to the rainy day fund. So we actually could free that money up if we want to, at some point.
I would, and again, when we get into the budget and finance, or the finance meeting, I would be looking to have probably a methodology where we're not necessarily doing a calculation, but we're adjusting out of the unassigned into the rainy day fund based upon half of the trailing 12. Something that's an ongoing calculation that when we get to the end of the year, we don't have to sit and recalculate
Yeah,
where we are.
right,
You know what I
however
mean?
we do that. And my only point is, we already have
Enough.
extra money
Right.
in rainy day fund, so that could go somewhere else if we choose to do so. It could be money that could be used as the last money to balance the budget for
Right,
next year.
okay. Any other comments, council? No other comments from public? Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Closing the meeting, Commissioner comments. Commissioner Bauer,
I have nothing.
Commissioner Gibbings.
The stuff, the truck, they're making it so easy, guys, for you to donate. They have a QR code, you scan it and it can go to your credit card. You don't have to show up with toy or with cash. Please support.
Commissioner Jazinski, what time is it? where
About 5:30,
Morning?
AM,
yes.
Thank you for getting up at 3:30 in the morning.
what's for breakfast today?
His face tells it all.
I did run a comb through my hair,
I'm jealous.
but I have no comments.
Commissioner Pressinger.
I should have said this earlier, but I just want to thank the members of both the Charter and Code Review Committee and also the Resiliency and Sustainability Committee for the efforts that they put in. They really have done a lot of work. Both committees have been very active. However, both of their efforts turn out in this case, I just want to make sure that we recognize their contributions. It really has been a very good contribution that they've made.
From my perspective, before I ask for adjournment, I did want to, thank all the committee members, obviously, for what they've done, for the addition to the marketing committee and those going back to the audit committee. And to the town, please buy a brick. Support your town in many ways. And have a happy Thanksgiving. And hopefully see people at the tree lighting following that. And on December 8th, as we said in the beginning, there's going to be a workshop. So I encourage residents to, if you have issues, things you want tabled, discussed concerning that budget workshop, to get them to your neighborhood commissioner. With that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night, David. Or, good morning, David.
Aye.